I am a teacher at Columbine High School. There is a student here with a gun.
He's inside the school shooting at the gun!
Well, I had to do it because somebody had to do something.
After shooting in the theater, I didn't have a plan of whether to die here or not.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if this is your first time tuning into one of our videos. We hope you have been well lately. Thank you for clicking on this video. If you find yourself enjoying it, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It would mean a lot to us. Also, please leave a comment if you'd like to. We love to read them when possible. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can join our membership for either $2 or $5 a month. We hope to see you around. Without further ado, let's jump right into the case. The new year is a time for fresh beginnings, a reset. For students at Perry High School, January 4th, 2024, marked their first day back to school after the busy winter holiday break. It should have been a day filled with excitement, friends reconnecting, and stories shared about winter activities and vacations. But for all involved, it soon became a day straight out of their worst nightmares. No one knew it yet, but in just a few short moments, their lives would be changed forever when the school halls echoed with gunfire. In what is described as the first school shooting of 2024, a 17-year-old student began a horrific attack in the cafeteria, shooting many students and staff members before killing himself. Today's case took place at Perry High School and Perry Middle School located in Perry, Iowa. It is important to know that the two schools share a building, connected by a hallway positioned next to the cafeteria, where the shooting took place. Each morning, the cafeteria served as a gathering space for the kids, hosting a breakfast program available to both middle and high school students before classes began. Before getting too far into it, let's first take a look at the events leading up to this attack, starting with our perpetrator. Dylan Jesse Butler was born on October 11, 2006, in Des Moines, Iowa, to parents Jack and Aaron Butler. It seems that shortly after he was born, his family moved to Jamaica, as it's reported that the first 10 years of his life were spent there. A quick side note, I'm pretty sure that the Jamaica they moved to refers to the very tiny town of Jamaica, Iowa, located just under an hour away from Des Moines. About 5 years after Dylan was born, his parents welcomed their second child, a little girl whom they named Chloe. Dylan seemed to really enjoy living in the small town of Jamaica, spending much of his time outdoors. His obituary states that Dylan loved fishing and enjoyed taking rides with his family in their off-road vehicle. It was in Jamaica that Dylan also formed a special bond with their neighbors' dogs, Roxy and Fire. It's reported that one of his favorite things to do was play with them in the snow. About 10 years after their initial move to this small town, the family moved once again, this time to Perry, which is just 15 minutes east of Jamaica. In comparison to Jamaica, which had less than 200 residents in 2023, Perry was a big town. Realistically, though, it was still a very small community, with Perry having just under 8,000 residents in 2023. According to KCCI.com, it was in Perry that Dylan's father served as the city's public works director for a few years, before becoming a manager at the local airport. Dylan's mother owned her own business, although further details about this business are unknown. It's also reported that she spent time serving on a city development board. Back to Dylan, though. Thankfully, he made friends within the neighborhood pretty quick after their move to Perry. At this time in his life, Dylan was described as a very nice but quiet kid. Unfortunately, it's reported that he soon began to be bullied pretty heavily at his elementary school, with many later wondering why that was, since he was such a nice kid. One of his friends described him as the kindest person ever. She also said, "He was there for us when we needed him, and we tried to be there when he needed us, which clearly we weren't there for him enough. As he grew up, Dylan spent a substantial amount of time online, where he used his social media presence to discuss his obsession with serial killers, including Jeffrey Dahmer. He also posted photos of himself online posing with firearms. At this time in his life, Dylan wasn't close to many people. However, he had at least 2 friends who said that he was sick of being bullied all the time. One of them later said, "He was hurting. He got tired. He got tired of the bullying. He got tired of the harassment." For the most part, Dylan just dealt with the supposed constant torment that he was subjected to in school. But it's reported that when he learned that his little sister Chloe was starting to get bullied too, Dylan seemingly snapped. It's stated that his family had attempted to get the school involved to halt the bullying that Dylan faced, but when the school continued to do nothing after the bullying began to affect his sister, Dylan reached a breaking point. Bullying him was one thing, but he didn't want his sister to live through the same torment that he had been for years. There wasn't much information at all concerning the involvement of the school, so I was unable to determine exactly how many times his family attempted to get them to do something. I also didn't read anything that suggested how involved the school got, or what they did do if they took some sort of action. There also weren't many facts stated about how severe the bullying was, but it is widely reported that it was bad enough to affect Dylan in some way. Some believe that this was the reason he chose to commit his later attack, while others think the whole thing wasn't quite as intense as some make it out to be. In 2022, when Dylan was in his mid-teens, his family had a new home built. Dylan and his younger sister Chloe seemed to still be quite close during this time, and I read that together, they would explore the woods around their house. It was also reported that their father would take them to forage for mushrooms from time to time. Dylan's love for the outdoors certainly stayed consistent throughout his life. According to his obituary, Dylan also enjoyed anything music-related. He reportedly learned a few instruments during his life, including the piano and guitar. Apart from that, though, he generally just loved listening to all different genres of music, both current and older. Dylan was particularly fond of all things vintage, and it's stated that he got this from his mother. As noted before, Dylan spent a lot of time online, mainly on social media apps. There were numerous posts on Dylan's social media, particularly on his TikTok account, that raised some red flags for people. In one video, Dylan was seen mimicking the cook from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies and game.
Yo, check it out. It's the cook from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Another video showed him pointing a stick at a friend, pretending it was a gun. It's also reported that he would do impressions of Jeffrey Dahmer on his page. Of course, he was young, and these strange posts can be attributed to his interest in dark subjects, and alone are not indicative that he would go on to commit a shooting at his school. Dylan's most used social media, however, was an app called Discord, which is really just a messaging platform if you aren't familiar with it. It was later discovered that Dylan's interest in killers bled into this app, and he belonged to a chat group called School Massacres Discussion. A user in this chat group had actually reported the community to the FBI in November, but ultimately never heard back from them. They didn't report Dylan's messages in particular, but according to NBCnews.com, the chat room was taken down prior to Dylan's attack. Unfortunately, that's about everything reported about Dylan's life. This case is obviously pretty fresh, so it's not surprising that information is a little light on this one. Let's jump into talking about the day of the attack. I will now be referring to Dylan by his last name, Butler, for the rest of the video. On the morning of the attack, Butler's parents dropped him and his younger sister Chloe off at the joint Perry Middle and High School, completely unaware of their 17-year-old son's devastating plan for the day. At 7:12 a.m., Butler entered his high school through the main doors. With him He carried a blue duffel bag which contained the weapons he potentially planned to use that day. After entering the school, Butler made his way straight to a bathroom, where he remained for a little more than 20 minutes, out of sight of security cameras or anyone who may have caught on to what he was up to. Inside of the duffel bag, Butler packed a pump-action shotgun, a revolver, a knife, and a homemade explosive device. According to my NBC15.com, authorities were never able to trace where the shotgun came from, but they believed it did not come from Butler's home, and that it was taken from the owner without their consent. The later report released by the Office of the Dallas County Attorney states that through their investigation, they were able to determine that the .22 revolver he stowed in the duffel bag originated from inside of his home and was likely unsecured and accessible to him. While held up inside of the bathroom, Butler made a few posts to various sites and apps. One of them was a TikTok post, which he captioned, "Now we wait." The TikTok post, which has since been removed along with Butler's social media accounts, featured the song "Stray Bullet" by the rock group KMFDM. This song gained notoriety for its association with Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, the perpetrators of the 1999 Columbine High School massacre, as it was featured on Eric's personal website, and the two of them also wore the band's merch. This song may also be familiar to you, as it was notably used by Pekka Auvinen, the attacker from one of the very few school shootings to ever take place in Finland. We have covered this case in the past, so make sure to check it out if you're interested in hearing about that one as well. According to reports, Butler sent a few messages to his friends on Discord. One read that he was at school and ready for what's to come. 10 minutes after this message, he sent another, saying, "I am fucking nervous. I am in the bathroom gearing up. There's a in the bathroom. I need him to leave so I can assemble my guns." There was no mention that I saw of his friends' reactions, or if he continued texting them afterwards. At one point, another student was in the bathroom that Butler was hiding out in. This student later did an interview with the news and spoke about his experience that day. He said, "I walked in right away, went to the restroom to just stand there for a while until lunch or breakfast opened up. As I was waiting there, I heard someone moving around, and I looked through the little crack in the stall, and I realized it was Dylan. As he looked at me through the crack, he opened his duffel bag and hooked it up." The student went on to say, "I stood there for a couple more minutes, and my body told me, 'You're not supposed to be here. Leave.'" The student opted to find another restroom, and so he left Butler in the bathroom alone. Back to Butler's actions for just a minute. According to the press release from the county attorney following the incident, Butler also started a live stream on Instagram, which apparently captured the impending attack in full. Thankfully, the platform quickly took it down after the fact, though. Butler apparently didn't have many followers anyway, so it isn't likely that many people, if any, actually saw it. As Butler was doing all of this within the privacy of the bathroom, more and more people were showing up to school. Students and teachers alike prepared to begin the day. Then, at 7:35 a.m., 23 minutes after first entering the school, Butler stepped out of the bathroom and made his way into the now crowded cafeteria. It stated that there were over 50 people in the space at the time. Like stated in the intro, it was the first day back after break, and many high school and middle school students alike had gathered to share breakfast and tell each other about their time during the holidays. Meanwhile, some students had just finished band practice and had also filed into the cafeteria around this time. Just a quick side note, I didn't read anything that spoke about where Butler's sister, Chloe, was in the school at the time of the attack, but it is reported that she was somewhere in the building. After entering the cafeteria himself, Butler raised his Remington 870 pump-action shotgun and without hesitation began firing into the crowd of over 50 people. The student that had previously left the bathroom that Butler was in also spoke about this time as well, stating, "I went to the other restroom and used the restroom, and I washed my hands, and right as I left, I walked around the corner to the lunchroom, and I heard 5 bangs. I saw people running towards me, telling me to run, so I turned around and tried helping people alongside me, telling them to run, and they followed, and we exited the building." Within a very short amount of time, Butler had shot at and hit multiple people. Many were injured during his burst of fire, but sadly, one was almost immediately killed. According to the press release, within just 24 seconds of the attack beginning, 11-year-old Ahmir Jolliff was struck 3 times. A few other students were injured during this time, but were able to make an escape out of the area by themselves. As bullets started flying, another student at the school, Corey Hoffman, jumped into action, putting his own life on the line to help his fellow classmates. According to reports, Corey used his body to shield multiple other students from the danger, subsequently being shot several times, leaving him with 14 entrance and exit wounds, a broken femur, a broken wrist, and the need for 35 staples in his knee. Though Corey reportedly had trouble remembering parts of the attack, a few of the people he shielded later came out and backed up the story. Back to the events currently taking place in the school's cafeteria. The principal, Dan Marburger, was nearby, and after hearing the first shots ring out, he hurriedly approached the area and immediately focused on Butler. Dan, with no concern for his own safety, bravely called out Butler's name and selflessly tried to reason with the gunman in a desperate attempt to save his students' and co-workers' lives. According to Stephen Bayens, the Iowa Department of Public Safety Commissioner, Dan called out to Butler, saying things like, "Dylan, don't do it. Dylan, let's talk." Stephen Bayens also said, "Every time he called that name out, the shooter heard his name. He looked and turned toward the sound, and when he did that, it diverted his attention from who he was intending to shoot." At 7:35 a.m., at the same time that Dan was confronting Butler, the school's assistant principal, Brad Snogren, triggered the school's SEERS system, short for School Emergency Alert Response System, a panic button for immediate contact with first responders. Just a few seconds later, a student called 911, putting even more emphasis on the fact that there was an emergency at Perry High School and that authorities were desperately needed right away. Still in the cafeteria, Dan pleaded with Butler to drop the weapon, but was unfortunately fired upon in return. He was able to retreat from the area, despite being injured at this time. Dan's heroic actions in distracting the shooter allowed many students and staff to escape from the cafeteria, physically unharmed. I can't imagine the strength and bravery it took to put himself in the direct line of danger. After this altercation between Dan and Butler, he continued to fire into the cafeteria. Soon after this, though, he actually left the room and wandered around various parts of the school, shooting his shotgun off randomly. He let off shots into secured classrooms, down desolate hallways, and towards anyone that came into vision. It's reported that it was around this time that at least one staff member had made their way into the school in an attempt to aid in evacuating students and faculty out of the building. There was apparently at least one more staff member in the area, and according to reports, it was when Butler was roaming the halls that he encountered and shot at them, injuring them in the process. The press release claims that just under 2 minutes after the first shots were discharged that day, the principal, Dan Marburger, despite already being injured and close to an exit, approached Butler once again in yet another selfless attempt to talk the shooter down. It's stated that it was at this time that Butler responded to the pleas by taking aim at Dan and pulling the trigger on him several times. The press release then states that Dan, now fatally wounded, stumbled out of the school. It was just 3 minutes after the initial shots when the first police officer, Michaela Zagar, arrived at the school, entering the building immediately. She promptly began the search for the active threat, but apparently had nothing to go off of. Very shortly after, at about 7:39 a.m., now in one of the school's hallways, Butler turned the shotgun on himself and ended his own life before ever making contact with the authorities. Officer Zagar and another officer on the scene, Josh Moore, were able to locate Butler's body fairly quickly and pronounced him dead about 1 minute after he dropped to the ground.
We have a male subject down in the hallway. Appears to be self-inflicted gunshot wound. Unsure on other victims. Now, a subject that's down is deceased.
Copy. Subject down, deceased. And location?
We are outside of room 308.
In total, the attack went on for 4 minutes and 21 seconds, in which Butler discharged 23 rounds from his shotgun in various parts of the school. Reports vary on how many people were non-fatally injured in the shooting. Some state it was only 4, but others claim that it was up to 6. Very sadly, though, like I already stated, both 11-year-old Ahmir Jolliff and 56-year-old Dan Marburger were fatally wounded. Ahmir was pronounced deceased at the school, while Dan was rushed to the hospital and ended up succumbing to his wounds 10 days after the tragic shooting. Along with those suffering with physical injuries, several others were left with severe trauma that could prove to be lifelong. Immediately following the attack, officers began securing the building. In their search, they discovered the other firearm and the homemade explosive device that Butler had packed with him that day. Thankfully, he never got around to putting it to use, and the police were able to quickly and safely disarm it. It is noted that even if it had been detonated, the damage would most likely have been very minimal, as the bomb was poorly assembled. Meanwhile, first responders worked to evacuate students, who were either running for safety or sheltering in various parts of the school. Some students evacuated to nearby homes, while others were taken to reunification centers. In total, more than 150 officers responded to the scene, assisting with evacuations and shelter-in-place procedures. By 8:25 a.m., the attached middle school was cleared, followed closely by the high school at 8:27 a.m. Nearby elementary school students were also dismissed not too long after. By 9:27 a.m., the FBI and ATF had arrived on scene to aid in the investigation of the incident. It's reported that Butler intended to take many more lives that day, but since he chose to begin the attack before the school day officially began, there weren't as many people inside of the building as there would have been if the day had started already. It's also noted that he did not have plans to target anyone in particular, and chose his victims based on opportunity. The press release reads, "The evidence confirms this was not a spontaneous act, but rather the product of significant preparation and planning. The evidence suggests the shooting victims appear to have been chosen based on immediate availability and were not specifically targeted. The investigation determined Butler likely displayed warning signs that were unrecognized or unreported." According to USnews.com, Butler had apparently begun planning the attack at least 6 weeks before it took place. Despite theories surrounding bullying of both Butler and his younger sister being the catalyst for the shooting, investigators still have not provided an official motive for the attack. Of course, this case is very recent, and only took place a year and a half ago, so things may change. It's no secret that authorities hold certain information close to the vest while the investigation is ongoing, so maybe we will learn more about this case in the coming months or years. The Iowa Department of Public Safety Commissioner Stephen Bayens spoke about Butler's writings that they were able to uncover, saying, "He desired to be famous. He desired to commit suicide. He desired to take others with him. It was also determined that Butler acted alone and that no one was truly aware of his plans." Butler's family later came out and released a statement directly following his attack. They said, "As the minutes and hours have passed since the horrors our son Dylan inflicted on the victims, the Perry School, and the community, we have been trying to make sense out of the senseless. We are simply devastated, and our grief for the deceased, his family, the wounded, and their families is immeasurable." They also later stated, "When we dropped off our son for school on January 4th, we had no inkling he intended the horrible violence he was about to inflict. On the way to school, Dylan had been discussing with us of future plans, and it felt like he was ready to get back to school after Christmas vacation and the start of a new semester. Dylan's sister, our daughter, was in the school at the time of the shooting. We simply do not understand how this could happen and why Dylan chose to do what he did. The lives lost to this unimaginable tragedy were taken far too soon. Both of the victims were amazing people through and through, and never deserved to have their lives stolen in such a violent and sudden way. With that being said, let's take a moment to learn about and honor the two people who sadly passed away as a result of Butler's unnecessary actions. 11-year-old Ahmir Jolliff was born on March 24, 2012, in Chicago, Illinois. At the time of his death, he was a 6th grader at Perry Middle School and was described by those who knew him as a joyful and vibrant young boy. He was known for his infectious smile, limitless energy, and friendly demeanor. In fact, he was so kind that he even earned the nickname Smiley. On the morning of January 4th, 2024, Ahmir was so excited to get to school that day, since it was the beginning of a new semester. He even left before his older sister, dashing out of the house the first chance he got. He had a very unique outlook on life and seemed to enjoy every day no matter what he was doing. According to his mother, Ahmir kept a trunk full of toys in his front yard so that any kid could access and play with them if they wanted to. Ahmir's father backed this up, later stating, "He used to leave toys out in the front and allow them, the friends, to come play. And the ones that didn't have toys, he would give to them and allow them to take it home." He also was known for asking everyone how their day was. Ahmir's love for life was truly remarkable. He had a diverse range of hobbies, which included participating in choir and band, and playing sports such as soccer. He also loved to play board games, and even immersed himself in the world of video games. It's said that he went out of his way to defend others against bullies, which just makes his amazing and kind personality more apparent. Not only that though, at just 11 years old, Ahmir would visit the elderly, hoping to connect with people, no matter their age, and bring some light into others' lives, as he was known to do for those around him. One of the many people at school who knew and loved Ahmir later spoke about him saying, "He was my best friend. He was always funny, and he was the only one there who actually never gave up between anything. He was always there for everybody." Following his death, those that knew Ahmir, or otherwise learned about his extraordinary personality, wore smiley face stickers in memory of his joyful spirit. A large rock outside of the school was painted blue, with a white "R.I.P. Ahmir" and a heart on it. There, people were able to leave notes and gifts to honor him. Ahmir's family and the community alike gathered on January 10th, 2024, at Caldwell Funeral Home to honor his memory. Ahmir was truly and undoubtedly an exceptional and very special little boy who deserved much better in life. Given the chance, it's obvious that he would have gone on to grow into an amazing person as he aged into adulthood. Dan Lee Marburger was 56 years old at the time of his death and was born on June 6, 1967. In 1989, Dan graduated Central College with a Bachelor of Science degree in education, with a goal of becoming an educator. During an interview with the Perry chief, Dan said, "I always knew I'd be a teacher. I had great teachers I wanted to be like." Dan moved to Perry, Iowa in 1995 and began a job as the associate principal at Perry High School. 2 years later, in 1997, he became the school's principal at the age of 30. During his time working there, Dan reportedly implemented many programs and was named the Iowa High School Athletic Directors Association Administrator of the Year in 2007. He worked at the school for just under 30 years. The students that had him as a principal later said that he always saw the best in them. One of them said, "He was there to uplift you or any student no matter what they did. He loved every student. Even if you did bad, he'd be there to offer support to be better." Outside of school though, Family time and travel were both very significant to Dan. He cherished spending time with his wife, who he had begun dating in 8th grade, and their 5 children, as well as his other loved ones. His wife later stated, "I'm very fortunate that I have years and years of good memories, fun memories. We just had so much good together." Dan also enjoyed reading, playing golf, and watching sports, remaining loyal to the Hawkeyes, the Vikings, and the White Sox through both the highs and lows. Dan was a big man with an even bigger heart, always going out of his way to bring joy to others with unconditional love and support. His family often described him as a gentle giant. Following his death, Dan's name was added to the National Memorial to Fallen Educators, recognizing his ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. His actions distracted the shooter, allowing students trapped in the cafeteria to flee. Stephen Bayan said, "Each time Principal Marburger called that name out and diverted that attention, it bought those students another 2 seconds, another 3 seconds, another 5 seconds. When we talk about school shootings, those sorts of seconds matter. In this case, they did matter, and it made sure that those kids got out of that commons area, around the corner and off to safety." One of Dan's daughters later recalled that she was not shocked to learn of her father's actions that day, saying, "As I heard of a gunman, I instantly had a feeling my dad would be a victim, as he would put himself in harm's way for the benefit of the kids and his staff. It is absolutely zero surprise to hear he tried to approach and talk Dylan down and distract him long enough for some students to get out of the cafeteria." Dan acted with such selflessness on the day of his death. Without his heroic actions, there's no telling just how many more people would have lost their life in that school. Unfortunately, Dan's bravery cost him his life. A memorial was held at a local park on the same day of the shooting, and there was another one held on the first anniversary of the attack. Gofundme pages were also established for the families of the deceased and injured. They will be linked below, so please check them out and maybe even contribute if you're able and would like to. At the time of writing this, a memorial bench and tree was just unveiled to honor the memory of Ahmir Jolliff. The bench is engraved with, "You've got a friend in me," and is a perfect testament to Ahmir's memory. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end of today's video. We always appreciate those of you who choose to learn about the victims of these horrific tragedies. We want to extend a very special thank you to our members for supporting the channel further. With all of that out of the way, we hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and make sure to stay safe.